What are the biggest problems in the world? I ask that question regularly to groups of students and at workshops, and the lists that people generate are usually quite similar. People talk about climate change and war and poverty and species extinction, among many other issues. Then I ask what each of them cares most about. And sometimes they'll name some of the issues that are already listed, and at other times they'll add other problems, like mountaintop removal for coal mining, or campaign finance reform, or animal cruelty. Next, I ask what talents or skills they could bring to bear to solve these problems. And some students will talk about being good communicators or organizers. Adults with specific skills will point to being policy analysts or healthcare providers or teachers or engineers. And young students will simply describe themselves as compassionate or caring. Finally, I ask, what do you love to do? Now, why are these questions important? Well, every generation faces its crises, and it would be easy to say that the crises of our time are not qualitatively different from those of previous generations. But I don't believe that this is true. Because never before have we had the capacity to cause the breakdown of so many ecological systems that sustain all life. This generation faces a new and startling task: to protect the myriad species on Earth, including our own, from calamity. Every generation has its opportunities, and it would also be easy to say that this generation's aren't fundamentally different from those of previous generations, but I don't think that's true either. Because never before have we been able to communicate and collaborate with people across every border, to work together to solve our problems wisely and quickly. Anyone who says that we can't feed the world through humane and restorative agriculture, that we can't develop clean and renewable energy sources to meet our needs, that we can't produce products ethically and sustainably or be safe without war, or cure diseases without animal experiments, or have thriving economies without endless growth in the GDP, simply lacks imagination, and perhaps will. So given the crises and the opportunities that we face, identifying the problems of our time and honing in on our talents and skills can provide a potential map for our life's work. There is little that is as rewarding as finding one's calling, the place where what one cares about, what one is good at, and what one loves to do meet. Now, when I embarked on my path to find my calling, my journey was rather circuitous. I went to college pre-med and quickly abandoned that pursuit. By sophomore year, I was an English major, and when I graduated and I wasn't very employable, I went to law school. But that wasn't the right profession for me either. So eventually I went to graduate school and I was studying world religions, imagining a career as a college professor. But what was missing from my self-reflection was the question about what I really cared about. Well, when I was in graduate school, I applied for a summer job teaching week-long courses to middle school students. And here was my opportunity to ask myself what I cared enough about to want to teach. And I realized that I wanted to teach about 3 issues very near and dear to my heart: environmental preservation, animal protection, and media literacy. So I pitched a bunch of courses to the director of the program. She said yes to all of them. And the animal issues course turned out to be the second most popular of the 60 courses that were offered that summer, second only to robotics, which, as a Star Trek fan, I could appreciate. Well, I watched in amazement as my students became passionately engaged changemakers when they learned about what was happening to animals. They changed their buying habits, their diets, and what they did in their free time, starting clubs and working to make a difference. And that's when I realized that I'd found my calling as a humane educator, somebody who teaches about the interconnected issues of human rights, animal protection, and environmental preservation in an effort to provide students with the knowledge and the tools and the motivation to be what we at the Institute for Humane Education like to call solutionaries. So I felt very fortunate to have found my solutionary path, the place where the answers to those questions met. So what will your solutionary path look like? Well, to help you answer that question, let's consider what others have done when they've combined their talents and passions to solve a problem that concerned them. And for the sake of this talk, I'm going to focus on the specific issue of factory farming and animal agriculture, which has such enormous effects on the environment, on animals, on people's health, and on world hunger. In today's modern industrialized agricultural systems, vast quantities of water, grain, land, and fuel are used to produce meat. It takes 5 to 12 pounds of grain, practically always sprayed with pesticides that contaminate our soil and water, to produce just a single pound of meat back. A shocking ratio when you think about the tens of millions of people who starve to death around the world for lack of grain to eat. Producing a pound of meat takes 10 to 100 times the amount of water as producing a pound of grain. And even the UN has declared animal agriculture to be a bigger contributor to global warming than transportation. Now, in today's confinement agricultural systems, animals who are able to feel just as much as our dogs and cats are crammed into cages, crates, paddocks, and windowless buildings so tightly they can barely move. They're branded, debeaked, dehorned, detailed, and castrated without any painkillers or anesthesia, which would be illegal if done to our dogs, cats, or pet birds. Meanwhile, high consumption of animal products contributes to diseases like heart disease and strokes and various cancer and type 2 diabetes, along with many other diseases, not only causing personal suffering and premature death, but also increasing healthcare costs for everyone. So what could somebody do who cares about this issue as a solutionary career? Well, they could become an inventor or entrepreneur like Ethan Brown, who left a career in clean energy in order to found a company called Beyond Meat, which is producing nutritious and affordable plant-based protein that tastes just like meat. What might an artist do? Well, Suko grew up near a slaughterhouse, and she became passionately committed to ending the abuse of animals, among other issues. So using art as her vehicle to educate and to influence, she became one of the foremost social justice and political artists of our time. Now, what if you're interested in law and actually graduate from law school, unlike me? Well, Peter Brandt is a lawyer, but unlike most attorneys who represent people, Peter represents farm animals, fighting and winning cases on behalf of egg-laying hens and animals in slaughterhouses. These days, filmmaking is a popular career. Marisa Miller-Wolfson produced the fantastic new film, Vegucated, which follows 3 meat and cheese-loving New Yorkers who agree to adopt a vegan diet for 6 weeks, and in the process, they learn about their food choices, as do we when we watch the film. And then there are those people who are interested in healthcare. Dr. Neil Barnard and nutritionist Ginny Messina, among many others, have been advocating for and teaching people about how a plant-based diet can largely prevent and often even cure many of the killer diseases that plague our society. And what could you do if you like to cook? Well, Sarah Kramer became a popular vegan cookbook author, Tal Ronan became a celebrity vegan chef, and many, many people are opening vegetarian restaurants like Candle Cafe in New York. Now, comedians can be some of the most powerful solutionaries. Dan Peraro is a cartoonist, and not only does he make people laugh, but he makes them think, educating about factory farming issues through his popular syndicated Bizarro comic strip. And then there are writers like John Robbins, who walked away from his family's Baskin & Robbins business walking away from the ice cream cone-shaped swimming pool in their backyard and the family fortune, and ultimately writing a best-selling book, Diet for a New America, which, among other things, actually exposes the suffering of dairy cows that made his parents so wealthy. Now, all of these people are solutionaries. All of them combined their talents and their skills to solve a problem that concerned them. I could have shown you just as many and varied professionals working to solve the crisis of climate change or child trafficking or a host of other issues. So, what issues do you care about? What aptitudes and skills can you bring to bear on those issues? And what do you love to do? As you begin to explore the answers to these questions, you'll find the place where those answers meet. And when you do, go out and do your life's great work joyfully and purposefully, because this world needs you so much. Thank you.